Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. September will be showing up this weekend, and I thought I would just give you an end of the season summer weather tour, so to speak, of my gardens. We're going to start over here. I'm going to go through a bunch of different tips. We'll go through some insect identification, disease identification, and I'm going to roast some poblanos and show you some tips on how to do that the right way. Let's start way over here in the corner. This is my kale, covered with a piece of Swiss chard. These were infested. I wasn't doing any kind of dusting or insect management on these. These were infested with caterpillars, probably because I'm attracting so many butterflies from over there. You know, they're coming over here. But, you know, that's not totally true. The moths, the butterflies, they're going to find your garden anyway. The tip really is, September is around the corner. Shear off all of the leaves. Put some insect dust down, neem oil spray, whatever you need. You can see all the droppings in there. Clean up the plants. Let's get rid of that weed. And what will happen is these will all send out new leaves. You'll have no insect problems, no disease problems. You'll get all new leaves for the fall garden. You'll be able to enjoy them. These plants were over winter. If you're in a zone like Maryland, zone 7, a little bit warmer. And they're going to come back next year. You're going to be able to eat the flowers. You're going to be able to eat the buds. So shear down any kales that are damaged, maybe diseased, have lots of insects, and they're going to start growing for you in your fall garden. This was actually probably my third or fourth wave of tomatoes. And what I like about doing that is sometimes when you're planting your tomatoes in waves, they get through the disease problems in your area. So these plants are really, really healthy. They're right by my side door for the kitchen garden, and they're gonna do well until the frost comes and takes them. Extremely healthy, 4 plants, and these are planted in waves. If you're growing peas, lettuce, anything that rabbits may eat, these dishwashing racks are perfect. You can get them at thrift stores for a couple of bucks, sometimes even cheaper. I like the metal wire ones, they last forever, but you could use plastic ones. Sometimes you can use laundry bins as long as they have a bottom that is open so sunlight gets in. But this will stop rabbits and birds from getting to your plants, and as they get taller, they're going to come right up through here. Same thing right in here. Shear down the dinosaur kale, and you can see remain, I think that's a worm that's dead now, but it was just covered. I literally had, I don't know, dozens and dozens of a new caterpillar on here. Usually I get the green cabbage looper, they come from the white moth, but different insects when you come to new gardens. All right, let's walk over to the main garden. Thought I'd stop real quickly at the butterfly garden. I released ladybugs about a week ago. You can see some still crawling there. If you want to check out that video, I went over ways that you can make sure the ladybugs stick around. And the main tip is to make sure that your plants have aphids, that there's a place for them to feed and eat. And these are aphids, in case you're wondering what they are. They're yellow. Their color can change based on the sap that they're taking out of the plants. There's a Monarch Caterpillar. So when you see these clusters of soft-bodied insects, that's typically your aphids. They're usually green in the garden. And again, if you want the beneficial insects to hang around, they do need a food source. So having aphids in your garden, away from the main area, is a great way to really feed the beneficial insects like the ladybugs, and then they will fly over to your garden and take care of problems over there. So here's my main garden. We're going to take a pretty candid look. You know, in the videos, I usually clean up my garden, so sometimes it may look better than it normally is day to day. This is what it looks like now. And basically, last couple of days, I've been going through cleaning out a lot of tomatoes that were rotting. We had high humidity, I was away, couldn't get rid of them quick enough. But here's a good example. Rolling into September, and I will cut in the video what this looked like before. I've been away for a bit. Humidity's been crazy, and when that happens, you're going to have a lot of your summer produce is going to rot. It's going to start to rot. Like I've lost a lot of tomatoes that I just couldn't get to. So we're going to clean. You can see all the insects on there. The humidity has just been ridiculous. So in this section, I'm going to clean up the tomatoes. We're going to get into that zucchini. There's several in there. You can see them around. There's at least 4. I'm going to pick all of that. Way in the back you can see the Brussels sprouts were attacked by some kind of caterpillar. But I'm going to clean up this spot. Keep the tomatoes that are still doing well. Not much disease on the tomato plants, but they are cracking and beat up, and you know, sometimes you just got to go away. I just cleaned up the space. Tied up the tomatoes, removed damaged tomatoes. They look pretty good, nice and green, a little bit beat up. You know, you may look at this and say that's leaf spot. It's not. Those are just weakened leaves that are starting to die off. That's nothing to worry about. With the drop in the cool nights now, we're getting 59-degree nights, just getting into the 50, 60-degree nights. Sometimes you might see leaf spot roll back into your garden. But I went through here, cleaned up the plants, getting them ready to really live out the rest of their life before the frost comes. A couple of vines of this squash that has been one squash plant I've been taking care of the entire season. Took off a couple zucchini actually from there during this week. But the vine borer hit part of it, just removed it. Bury the stem where the vine borer may have damaged. Sometimes the plant survives, it's doing pretty good. But I just cleaned out this space. So let's get into the main garden. So I got leftover things from videos I was doing. I'll get that all cleaned up. I wanted to show you this space. Now I had this as grass, and I enjoyed actually letting the clover come in for the bees. But with the size of the garden, now that I've had a full season here, I just had to cut out things. I want to cut out the time of having to cut the grass edge. The best way, now that I've done landscape fabric in there and I put down mulch, I've used nothing. I've removed the grass. I've used cardboard. If you want to set up a big space and deal with and not deal with lots of problems, drop cardboard. Ask your friends to start saving you big boxes. This actually works the best. It's nice and thick. You drop it down, you put your mulch on there, the weeds don't come through, the cardboard will break down, you'll be left with only mulch sitting in this area. And if you wanted to do it again next year, you can put down more cardboard. It works the best. I highly recommend it, and it can be cheap, almost free, if you just start collecting your boxes now. Nice lesson learned with the cherry tomato hedge is that I packed way too many in there. Sometimes I get some grand ideas. I like to experiment. I wanted to see if it worked, and it worked. Every maybe 10 inches, 12 inches, I dropped in a tomato plant. I don't even know how many are in there anymore. But it just went so well that it's actually hard to get in there and get to the tomatoes. So I will reduce this, but I'm going to do this every year for the cherry tomatoes. It's just a great way to grow a lot in a very small space. If you haven't grown them before, I highly recommend the yard-long beans, or they're sometimes called Asian beans. There's different names, but they'll grow like 2-3 feet long. You pick them when they're smaller. If you let them grow, you can harvest the seeds, use them in soups. But the plant does extremely well. And it even got beat up with disease. I sprayed it with some peppermint oil, took care of it, and now it's coming back full force. Here's just an example of, this one's not even fully mature. You want to pick it really at this size, cut it up into little pieces, and they're really delicious, nice and sweet. The beans aren't large in here at all, but if you let it continue, you'll get plump-sized beans in there. Swiss chard, I hacked back. You can see that it's coming back for the fall. Radishes are in. Now's a great time to start getting all your fall plants in. Okra, doing beautifully, massive. We're going to get down to the trellises. This was my cucumbers, the big pickling cucumber space that was in here. So when you go away for a couple of days, that always seems to be when the garden goes nuts. So I have a lot of cucumbers in here that are just over mature. And what I do with these is I make a cucumber water. So, I mean, it's kind of cool actually when you get in there and you start moving stuff. You can see all the pests that were in there. Lots of squash bugs and different stages of development, and that happens when you go away and you're not, you know, keeping up with your sprays and your dustings and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there are just tons of squash bugs in here. But you got to go on vacation. Can't be a slave to your garden. Sometimes you can find people to help you out. But anyway, let me continue cleaning this out. And now I have it transitioned over for the fall garden. Kohlrabi right there, arugula, lettuce, peas. Left my gate open one time, didn't protect anything, and you can see that a rabbit is coming in. Or, yeah, it's a rabbit, because you can tell it's a rabbit because of the height of the top that was chewed off. That's not a mouse or any kind of little rodent like that. And we'll see how it goes. I put the baskets on, the dry racks on later. We'll see if it works. I think it'll be okay. What I was really thinking, though, with a rabbit, it should be eating this kohlrabi down, but it's not. Maybe it was birds, could be birds. Birds like to pick at your food too, or at your young plants. Cucumbers that didn't make it, they'll all go into compost. Transitioning space in here. Another mistake I made, if you remember, excuse me, this was cucumbers, I think acorn squash, watermelon, cantaloupe, and eggplant. Well, the eggplant are doing extremely well, you know, since I've cleared out everything a couple weeks ago. And I got different varieties hanging on there. There's probably some bigger ones in there. There's one ready for picking back there. 3. Again, I packed everything in there way too much. I was able to manage it growing vertically, but you know, I got to take it a little bit easy and keep the vision. And we make this mistake a lot when the plants are tiny, kind of cute, you want them to grow, but you don't really keep in mind how big they are going to be when they are mature. So it's 3 eggplant and a dwarf eggplant right down there. It's growing my squash in here. I did a couple videos on how to take care of it. Remove them eventually. This is my 3rd wave of squash and zucchini, and it's doing really well. So don't be afraid to plant in waves. Peppers are doing well in the sunken containers. Asparagus all back there. I'm putting down mulch again. You see all the cardboard? Let's see what happened to... Now these are always caterpillars. Anytime you see damage like these kind of holes, you have some kind of worm on there, some sort of caterpillar. That's not snails, they're slugs. There's, I don't know. There you go. So just start looking around. So really, and again, I went away, didn't put any treatment down, and some butterfly decided to lay eggs, and now the caterpillars are everywhere. So what I'm going to do next year is I'm not going to try and save these Brussels sprouts, but I'll be using the ag fabric and making basically a tent around it, just like a bag actually, and I'm just going to pull it over, give it a lot of room, and it will stay in the bag so I don't have to use any chemicals the whole year, and nothing's going to get on it. I'll check it every once in a while, maybe drop in some insect dust for the random insect that gets in there. But Brussels sprouts grow. I just went away at the wrong time, and you can see all the damage. Look at right in there, the caterpillars. So that's what you're looking for caterpillar damage. And you can see too, see all those little markings, little droppings? That's how you know it's caterpillars. There's another one. And it's a different variety. It's a different stripe, different color than the standard green cabbage looper that comes into my garden. All of my tomatoes are still alive, a little beat up, but still alive from when I planted them in, really I think back in the beginning of May. Maybe I did squeeze some in April. But they're doing well. And I attribute this to listening to my advice finally and following the spraying routine. It makes a huge difference. It's not so much the product, but sticking to your routine. One of my TP trellises, different beans growing on there. They're doing really well. I've been harvesting them. I think these are gold mare beans, flat pods. They taste like green beans. They're really good. They're sweet. And you can just see all the beans that are coming on here. And that's from, I believe, well, I can tell you exactly. Usually I put in 2 plants. Yeah, so it's 2 plants per pole. And they do quite well. Let's block the sun out. All the way to the top. Of course I can't reach that. I have to stand on something, so slight mistake there. So here are my poblanos. They're a mild heat pepper, perfect for roasting. I'm not going to do them on a grill. I'm going to do them indoors. You just do it under the broiler, a couple of minutes. You keep an eye on it. You want them to brown. You want them to get a char, and then you put them into a Tupperware container with a lid. They kind of steam, and then you can peel the skin off. They have thick skins, so the whole key to having great roasted or grilled poblanos is making sure you take the skin off. So the beauty of growing your own vegetables, you know, is that you know what's on them, so I don't even need to wash these. A couple of quick tips. If you find your peppers have marks on them where they're starting to die off, look like that. If you want to know if you can eat them, cut off the area. If the seeds are nice and white, kind of yellow white, ivory white, you can eat them. If, you know, something gets inside them, they're going to all be brown. You're going to see that throughout the seeds, but this pepper is perfectly fine. When you're roasting your poblanos, you're not going to cut them. They'll steam a little bit from the inside as the heat gets to them. We were going to put olive oil on them. We're roasting them indoors. Light coat. Indoors, it's not that much of an issue if you use excess of olive oil because it usually doesn't burn. If you're doing this on a grill, you don't want to soak this down with the olive oil. Put it on the grill because the oil is going to drip into the fire. It's going to burn, it's going to smoke, and it's going to put that taste in there. You don't want the taste of burned oil. So a light coating of oil, do that in a second. Just going to put them right into a Pyrex pan, add some salt, and then I'll talk about roasting them on the broil setting of your oven. Covered in olive oil, didn't put any salt down yet. You can do that afterwards when you put them into the container to take the skin off. If you don't like olive oil, use a different oil. If you don't want to overdo it, put a little bit on there. You do want the oil covered across because it helps conduct the heat. You know, you can see that it's set on broil now. Helps conduct the heat across the peppers, and it helps cook them. It also helps kind of roast them. So you're going to put these in for 3 minutes at a time. Every oven's going to be a little bit different. Check them every 3 minutes. I like to put it in that direction long ways because I guess the metal covers more of the pepper area. So they should brown up. Check every 3 minutes. So this is exactly 3 minutes, and you can see the coloring that's changing on there. That's the skin. It's hard to digest that. That's why we're going to peel it off. You can see it's starting to roast. Not quite ready yet. So we're going to put it in for another 3 minutes. At this point, it's really hot, so be careful. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. And we're going to start with another 3 minutes and see how it goes. And check on it. Maybe do 2 minutes because each oven's going to be a little bit different. So about another 2 or 3 minutes later, and they're starting to roast. You want that brown color to be on there. Again, it's on the skin. Poblanos are best done this way. You can do other peppers, but poblanos really roast and grill nicely. So I'm going to stop there. You could go further if you want more of a char flavor. Bring them over here. Make sure you don't put hot glass on wood. And, oh, let's see. I forgot the tongs. Hold on. So, and here's a good example. You can hear them sizzling. See how it's bubbling? Nice and brown. Just drop them into your Pyrex container. Again, we didn't cut off the tops. We want them to sort of steam on the inside. You could turn them over if you want. Roast the other side. It really depends on how much you want for the roasted flavor. When you do turn them over, because they're already soft, you could roast them a little bit less than the first round. So once they're on like that, add more olive oil. That's where I put the salt in. We're going to let them just steam in there about 15 minutes, and then we'll pull off the skin, remove the seeds and the tops, and you'll have your roasted poblanos. So after I put them in a Tupperware container, I decided, you know, I want to roast the other side. You don't have to. It's a little easier to peel the skin off, but I decided it's all right to change your mind. So we're going to roast these about 3 minutes, and then we'll take it from the container. Okay, now I have them where I like them. Soft, roasted on both sides, and let's drop them in there. And you can see roasting them on the flip side, they're a little bit softer, and that's what you want. You don't have to do it. Everything should be done by taste. Already salted from the first go around there. Alright, so this time we are really going to keep them in here about 15 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes, and just set them up right on your cutting board. They're soft. You can see how the skin is already peeling off, and that's really why you want to let them sit in a Tupperware container. Again, I'm doing this one-handed. You can cut the tops off. You can see it's nice and soft, and it's going to just peel off nice and easily. I use my hands. And you want to, cut the top out, get as much of the pepper as you can, peel off the skin. Let me do that and I'll show you what it looks like. That's 3 that I peeled, and you can either peel them off with your fingers or you can kind of just shave them off with a knife like that. So I'm going to go through all of those and then I'll show you how I season them up. But this is a great way, to roast your poblanos just using the oven. If you wanted, you could leave them in longer. You can see that the char is right on the skin. It didn't pass through, to the flesh of the pepper, but you could let them roast longer too, just depending on how much of that flavor you like. So once peeled, I cut them up into thin slices, and in retrospect, really roast both sides. You don't have to, but it's going to be much easier to peel. Use your hands. This is how I plate it. Next year, I'm going to cut back on the varieties of peppers I grow, but poblano is definitely a keeper. I'm going to do probably like a half a dozen plants. The only downside with this is that this is only going to last about 2 minutes. It's delicious. Salt across the top, and I like a coarse salt. And then if you want, let's see if I can do this without pouring it in too quickly, a drizzle of olive oil. But this is how I prepare poblanos. Highly recommend them for your garden. Coming over to the beans here, if you notice, these are rattlesnake beans ready to be picked. Kind of just randomly growing up a pole that was there. I didn't put in a full trellis. I'll transition them over to here, but that was really unplanned. But beautiful rattlesnake beans. I like the color. And if you look at the top, you see a little bit of coloring under there. But as you work, discoloring, as you work your way down, you see damage. And usually spider mites start at the bottom and they work their way up. I haven't sprayed this with peppermint oil. You can flip it over, you can't really see them. Sometimes you'll see like a white, cottony threading on them. But this damage is usually spider mites. Underneath the leaves, hard to see. Peppermint oil spray will take care of them. But you can see too, is if it's not, killing the plant off super fast, you still get all kinds of growth. This is usually from some sort of caterpillar. And I will come in here and I'm going to hit this with the peppermint oil spray this weekend because I want to give everything a chance to live really until the frost comes. This pattern, let's start up here. I don't know if I'll be able to see any of them. So this is another bean, purple flower, it's beautiful. I like just looking at the plant. As you're coming down, you see this papering and chewing, let's see, of the leaves. That's an insect, usually something laid by a moth or a caterpillar. Doesn't look like a worm, it's this kind of yellow fairy ball. I went through yesterday and picked them off. But that's how you know you have some sort of insect, large insect you can see, chewing on your leaves. Let's see if I can find, oh, there we go. So, there's 2 of them. And those are problematic insects, and the eggs are laid up on the higher leaves. They don't crawl in from the bottom. Well, I can't pull that off easily. So just remove the leaves, drop them to the ground. Oh, there's a bunch more. So say they're working their way up the plant. I don't even know what they hatch into. I'm not 100% sure what they are. But every year, the beans get this problem. Now, this variety tends to have it more. Coming over here, no real issue with that. So different plant varieties of the same type of plant, like beans, may be better for your area depending on your diseases, depending on your insects. Same variety here. I've actually been spraying this with neem oil, and I use a lot of different things, just with peppermint oil. It's a big irritant, and it also masks the scents of the plants, and it looks pretty healthy. Kind of like this. This is an All-America Selections winner. This is the, let's see, this is the Jasper Tomato. This is, oh, here we go. So, you don't like seeing diseases, but with the drop in the temperatures, that marking, when it's a dark green leaf, all those little brown dots, that's leaf spot. And that usually shows back up when the temperatures are changing with the cool weather. So I'm going to spray this with hydrogen peroxide. I'll take care of it. And my goal right now is just to get them to last until the frost. And you can see the spot, and then around it is a little bit yellow halo. This is not early blight. When it's early blight, the brown circle has concentric rings within rings. This is just a brown spot, yellow leaf spot, or some version of that. But anyway, this is growing so well. It kind of merged into the green beans, and now they're all interconnected, and I just love looking at this trellis. Of course, it's hard to get through. I gotta now duck down and get under here, but it's worth it. Another variety of bean, and this one has been sprayed. When I started noticing the problems under here, I've been spraying it with peppermint oil, and the leaves are actually starting to come back. They'll probably still die off, but you're not seeing the advance of the spider mites up the bean plants. And beans and cucumbers tend to get that more regularly in my area. Tower of peppers, that's going to be all removed, transitioned over to peas. And maybe we'll just finish up coming through here. We'll get over to the cooking if I don't cut that in other places. But I'm really happy with this year's garden. I have a lot more space than I think. I kind of really pack stuff in here just out of being excited to grow. The sunflowers are beautiful. I'll be doing that every year. Tomatillos are doing well. They get all these holes in them. That's typically from flea beetles. That's also what you get on eggplant when you see these little black specks that hop. Flea beetles. The only thing that seems to work for that, in my opinion, is the insect dust. Still have large green tomatoes, and if they don't mature, we're going to, there's one that's rotting, so I missed that. That's from caterpillars. Actually, let me show you that damage, and then we'll wrap up this video. So what happened, over the last 2 weeks, with all the humidity, being in a new zone, my tomatoes got caterpillars on them. Not the tomato hornworm. I wasn't losing all the green leaf, but I was just getting caterpillars that would burrow holes in there. That, whenever you see that, those are the caterpillars, and they dig into there, they eat, the plant rots, the fruit rots. The leaves look great, but I had to go in, there's some damage left, and actually drop dust on here the other morning. That remained on there. Usually I get it all off when I wash it. But they were just everywhere, and they were taking out the mature tomatoes. Everything's under control now. I could have probably tried neem oil, but I wanted to take care of them quickly. If you have an infestation, I don't have an issue using insect dust. You can use stuff that's organic, certainly. You can use the chemical dust, but that takes care of the problem quickly. Wash it off. Put it on in the evening when good bugs go away. Wash it off first thing in the morning. You take care of the problem. You reduce risk to the good insects. All right, so we'll wrap up here. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions about fall gardening, what's going on in your garden, please leave me a comment. I get really to probably 95% of them. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com.